always an edge because, you know, we're talking more on the fly. Like we can have our notes and have our outlines, have an idea of what we want to say, but it's not like writing where you're like, okay, I didn't like that sentence. Let me go delete it.
Yeah.
Live video can feel a lot more intimidating. And so I've just been kind of getting comfortable. I'm in my groups like all the time doing live video with my group courses. I just did a live Q&A with them earlier. So kind of in that smaller container of like-minded people, I think is a piece of it as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, for whatever reason, like doing it on my whole public profile always felt a little bit like, maybe I'll just like stay in my comfort zone of writing. But yeah, I mean, now that we're here, it's like totally cool. So it's fine.
Well, and that's normal. And
yeah, 100%.
I love that you're being honest about it. And I love that you're using your own experience as a teaching opportunity, because it's so honest and it's so real. And it's also just so relatable. I was talking to our on-site astrologer earlier today, Jen Bradshaw. I don't know why I put that in quotes. I just think it's like funny.
Yes, astrologer. Yeah.
Our on-site astrologer. But I was talking to Jen earlier, and I was talking about how I've been getting more messages and clients and friends and people asking me for their help around their brand and around visibility and around like basically getting themselves to a place where they always feel comfortable enough to be seen, to go live, and I sat with one of our, I won't say who, but I sat with one of our colleagues, like another woman in our leadership program the other day. And I was like teaching her like the filters that don't look like filters, but are filters, like the automatic makeup filters. I'm like, she's like, Katie, you know, you always look ready. And I'm like, no, I just know the shortcuts.
Yeah, totally.
You know? And so, and I've done some work to remove the blocks, because one of my big things about 6 months ago was like, I want to heal my Lyme. I want to heal my depression. I want to get myself to a place where I'm always ready to be seen. Right.
Yeah.
And so the topic of today's training, which was your idea and I loved and you brought to the table, was or is around your message. Okay. Sure. And specifically making magic from your own message, right? So tell me a little bit about that. And I'd love if you could like tell us, how does visibility and this idea of being seen connect to the idea that a lot of us have a core message that we feel called to bring into the world?
Yeah, for sure. And it's something that I feel so passionately about because it's been so much of my personal experience in my business and things that I've had to work through.
Yeah.
Something that I really stand for, and I love that you called this out, is this idea of like teaching by example and getting really vulnerable and really honest about what my experience has been, in a way of like kind of showing like, hey, you don't have to be perfect. It can be messy. You don't have to know what you're doing, and you can still make magic from that place.
Yeah.
So I think this idea of making magic with your message is in the spirit of storytelling. You know, let's go back to like my early days in coaching. Like you and I had just met, we're just kind of starting on this whole journey. And this feeling of knowing that I had this message, knowing that I really, you know, wanted to help people, wanted to impact people, but I didn't know exactly what that message was. And I wasn't sure that anybody would even really listen. I was really scared of getting visible because I was also really afraid of like judgment and what people would think of me and do I look okay and all that kind of stuff that we can take on women. And so in the process of working through that, getting more visible, starting to put myself out there, magic started to happen, like weird synchronicities and things that like I couldn't have explained any other way. Like actually meeting you, a story that I tell a lot is how Katie, and for those of you who don't know who are watching this, Katie and I met right after I had quit my full-time job and I was like trying to start my coaching business, and I was working part-time at Lululemon. And so that encounter was a total synchronistic, you know, meeting. And so it was like, the more I started to realize like, okay, wow, the more I can be brave and be vulnerable and be honest and put myself out there in an authentic way, the more the universe like meets me like 10 steps in. So that's really where the magic happens, like where that comes in, because when we are putting that energy out there, you're going to get it back.
Yeah. So I'm like having a visible moment over here. Do you see this?
Oh.
Because I just,
You've come so far, everybody.
You've come so far, but not too far to not be crying on camera. But, I think that what's so cool about how we met and how, I've met a lot of the women in IGC and how you've met a lot of the women in IGC and also in your own circles, is that like, it is magic. And it also requires us to say yes. So like, I walked in Lululemon that day with my ex and his kids, and, we were just like, whatever, probably like wasting the day, trying to like, whatever, spend time. And we're getting so many hearts right now.
Luan.
What?
Buy some Luan. Like, I can still tell you all the like.
Oh, yes. Probably in a huge fight knowing that relationship. But you said, "Hey, are you Katie?" Right? Mm-hmm. Like you said something to me. And it's funny because I've always been so impressed with how extroverted you are, Natalie. And like, guys, Natalie's like a networking queen in like the non-networking corny way. Like, she's always doing stuff. She always has all these new friends. Like, I'm just, and you're always meeting people. And I like Rebecca, our mutual friend, Rebecca Rubin, also an OG original goddess, but we'll be like, I don't know how Natalie does it. Like, she's got so much energy and she's I'm like, Rebecca, no, she just leaves the house. No, I'm just kidding. But,
yeah. Just
but the thing about you is like, you really are open. Your heart is so open. And that's when magic is able to happen, when people's hearts are opened. And I was actually going through a really hard time in my life, even though I somehow was still, in the process of creating something. And I don't, I wouldn't have known to stop you. I didn't know you at the time, right? You had met two of my friends and they had told you about some of the stuff that I was doing and how we should meet. You guys probably have a lot in common, And then this whole thing, I mean, I remember sitting on my couch talking to you on our first call, which to me, at that point I'd been coaching for 3 years. So I was like, I don't know, is this like a friend chat? Is it a consultation? When you're like not sure what you guys.
Yeah, me too. I was like, I guess we'll just like talk and see what happens. Like,
and then I ended up being like, I'm starting this new company. Do you want to be a part of it? And you were like, sure, yeah, great, okay.
I was so excited too. Yeah, because I didn't know anybody who was a coach at the time. Like, I had already done 2 different coach trainings, but my circles in DC, like nobody was into it. So I was so excited to be like, oh my God, it's like my people.
Totally. Yeah. And you had actually gone through 2 pretty well-known coach training programs, right?
Yeah.
And you had some success and whatever, but I think the other reason why I got some kind of wave of emotion is because I know, I feel like I've been through your journey of figuring out what your core message really is. And I've seen over the past 3 years, the different iterations of Natalie and Natalie's business and Natalie's brand. And to me, to see you claiming the wealthy witch and owning that and integrating that more and more in all of the ways, in your brand, in your copy, how you speak, photos, all the things, it's been really, really cool. And I also kind of want you to touch a little bit on the witch wound if you're open to talking about it.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I think that's a huge barrier to us getting our message out there.
It's really a core piece. And I just want to say thank you so much. I really received that because it has been a very iterative process. And again, I really try to be really open about all the things that I've tried and how many different versions of my business there have been, because it's this, I think sometimes we get stuck in this idea that it has to be perfect. You have to know exactly what you're doing before you get started.
Yeah.
But really, like, A, that's not a real thing. Like, nobody
Right.
knows. And then B, like, starting and taking the actions and then getting the feedback is how you grow. Like, that's really how you grow. And so that really for
Mm-hmm.
me too has been my journey with the, finally landing on the Wealthy Witch. Because if you'd asked me 3 years ago, even when I knew you Lululemon, if that would be the name of my company, I probably would have like laughed in your face and been like, what's happening? And so again, this process, the witch wound, is something that I really have been studying and done a lot of healing around for myself in terms of the visibility and money blocks that creative, spiritual, intuitive, sensitive women can have when they go to start their own businesses. So
Mm-hmm.
this idea that my first year in business, I was so scared to quote unquote put myself out there, is the phrase that I use. Like, talk about myself,
Mm-hmm.
post about it on social media, really anything, get visible in any way, because I was so terrified of judgment and rejection.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it didn't really, I healed it for myself. I shifted my business model. I really stepped into women's business and leadership coaching. But so I did that. And then I started to do all these market research calls, which actually was your idea. I did 100,
Oh
free
my
coaching
God, I
sessions.
remember that. I remember
I
that.
did 100 free coaching sessions in 90 days. It was so intense, you guys. I was doing like 4 calls a day. But what I realized, it was all with other like coaches, alternative healers, women who had their own businesses. And 86 out of the 100 calls that I did, their coaching request was around, I know what I should be doing to build my business, but I'm afraid of putting myself out there. And that was the exact phrase that they were using. And so at
There
that
was
point,
another word they were using too.
well, confidence. Like, I need to find this
We were so
confidence.
surprised though, remember?
So
We were like,
surprised.
this is so basic. Really? It's this easy? Like, we just need to teach women
Talk
confidence?
about confidence, totally, but it's like none of that other stuff can work if you don't have the inner strength to actually make it
Yeah.
happen. So that was such an eye-opening moment for me, because I was like, oh my God, this is something that I've just spent a year like working through for myself, and now I have all these women telling me that this is their issue. Like, oh my God, okay, cool, like, done. And so like that was one piece of it. And then at the same time, I was doing a lot of work around my spirituality, a lot of work around my intuition. I was getting really connected to the divine feminine, learning about Mary Magdalene, who is just this idea that women in our society are not valued as whole and sacred. And we're seeing that a lot in like the current movement with Me Too and a lot of the like kind of new feminist wave. But this is like maybe even a year and a half before this happened. So I was doing a lot of this studying for myself and
Mm-hmm.
realized that, oh my gosh, like, men don't have this problem. Like, most men like feel really comfortable, or at least don't take it so personally, where it's like, I feel personally rejected if someone doesn't like my idea. They don't like take it in that internal way. And so I realized, like, wow, okay, that has something to do with this like systemic invalidation of women's voices and women's
Interesting.
visibility. And that ties into the witch wound, because if you read about the witch hunts in Europe and even in the United States, this idea that like any woman who is, different or out there or a healer is at risk of being put to death. And so then, of course, actually, women who are specifically called to this work, healing work, emotional work, coaching, um, are going to feel that same fear, because we've been told for hundreds of years that like actually you are literally putting yourself at risk of death.
Mm.
So whether or not so as a culture, we now have this story and this fear. So that was a real like, oh my God moment for me, oh my goddess moment for me.
Mm.
uh and really catalyzed, the witch part of the Wealthy Witch, is like this idea of actually our voices and our messages and our work is really needed. And so we need to heal to like get it out there.
Yeah. Yeah. And so let me just explain this to our audience. So I'm
Yeah,
often,
that was that clear.
well, no. It's very clear to me. It would be very clear to a lot of people who listen, but my role, a lot of how I see my role in our company and in the world is like to be a translator. So Natalie, I'm very, very spiritual. I'm like pretty intuitive.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like a little psychic, right? And so I get all the stuff that you're talking about. I'm very energetically sensitive, as are you. There's a lot of stuff going on. Like the women in my life and in my world and in my circle and in my whatever, who are as sensitive as us, or, I've been checking in with all of them because there's a lot going on right now. There's a
Yeah.
lot going on these past few days. I can't even tell you how many people told me today that they didn't sleep last night or didn't sleep well last night. And
Oh,
yeah, there's a full moon, but
yeah.
Trump also posted on Twitter. Did you see this?
About the witches. Yeah.
About the witch hunt.
Yeah, I know.
So Rachel Welsh and I were messaging about that earlier, but
I
I
try
think,
not to like watch the news or pay attention to Twitter, but yeah, I saw that briefly.
but I feel like there's something happening on a deeper level. I mean, I know what he's talking about, in regards to what's going on in the world, but I feel like there's more happening here. And so, quick translation, some people believe in this and some people don't. It doesn't matter to us. What we say is like, take what works for you and what makes sense to you and what helps you heal. So some people believe that we live multiple lives and
Yeah.
that, one lifetime, that many of the women who are feeling called towards kind of having a more public voice, having, being more of a public figure, getting their message out into the world, may have been persecuted or been threatened to in some significant way during like the witch trials. And
Totally.
so it's no secret. I mean, everybody, this is history, that a lot of women who had powers, so healing powers, healing gifts, were labeled witches.
Mhm.
And so, the witch wound, as Natalie's talking about, is the idea that we still have an imprint, meaning like we still very much carry on a soul level an imprint that we cannot talk about this stuff.
Right.
So this is part of why it's scary to talk about this stuff, potentially. Now, you can take it or leave it. It doesn't matter to me. I grew up Catholic. We don't believe in that kind of stuff. But, then my brother passed away, and I had this very like clear sensation that my brother was going to be reincarnated in this lifetime. And I told my parents, they were like, okay, cool. You know what
Aw.
I mean? Like, if it means Bo comes back, then we'll give up our that part of Catholicism. They
Yeah,
change things every couple of
totally.
years anyways. But someone's going to get offended by this, but it's okay.
Whatever.
I don't think my grandmas watch my Facebook lives.
Well, and the other thing I will say again, and I think this is kind of the not fine line, but what past lives, energetic imprints, that's one piece of the conversation. But then I think we can all agree that there are like systemic narratives around being a woman, specifically a spiritual, sensitive, holistic minded woman in this society, that, we're all ingrained of like, be nice,
Yeah.
don't, rock the boat, you can't make money like caring for people, right? Like you don't charge for so much of this emotional labor that we all do. And that comes from that same cultural construct. So
Yeah.
it's like, you know,
So there's the witch wound and then there's the woman wound. And
yeah,
so if you're a woman in this lifetime, and,
yeah,
and certain men and, people who categorize themselves in other ways deal with this too, but we're talking about women right now.
yeah,
And, so if you're a woman in this lifetime, you have likely experienced something in your life, whether it's abuse or sexual harassment or whatever, anything. You were talking about the Me Too
mansplaining on
movement,
like a small spectrum.
all
Yeah,
that shit.
all
And
of it.
so yeah, there's the witch wound, perhaps from past lives. And if we can't agree that past lives exist, we can definitely agree that women carry stuff, and that women, we also carry and absorb the trauma of other people. And I think men do too. I really do.
I do.
But you know, that's a different conversation and perhaps a different decade. I think that we as women, and you know, I see some of the women in our circle that we're connected to really rising up in their voice and rising up in their power. And then, you know, one of the biggest parts of IGC, one of our like mottos is to change lives that change other lives.
Yeah.
And so if you know, like I think about, and I think this was also why I was getting a little bit teary, I think about those conversations that we had in the early days, and I remember how aggressive I was. Like I remember, you know, I would say like I definitely have been a trailblazer in that a little bit in our circle of like, guys, we're going to do this, you know?
And I'm like, okay.
You're like, okay. But you know, you have worked with so many amazing women. You're putting such great, like high quality work out into the world. And so it makes me feel good that I've had some small part in that, and that we've had like our connection continues to inspire each other and inspire the women around us. So, so I was going to say this to you. You posted something the other day that I really, really loved because you brought up emotional labor. And I'm wondering if you can reference this post, but you posted something on Facebook that was like, emotional work is work. Energetic work is work. Do you remember that post?
Oh my God, yes. Yes, I do.
And you got a really good response, right?
Yeah, I did, because I think and this happens a lot too with my clients, is this idea of, in Inner Glow Circle in the community, we talk about being versus doing, right? Yeah. And so for those of you who may not be familiar with this idea, it's like being is the inner work and getting yourself into alignment with what you want to be creating, then you can go do it. So it's like, okay, and we see this sometimes if you're, you need to be doing something, but you're not doing it. So it's like, okay, maybe I haven't sent an email newsletter for like the 4th week in a row. Like, what is going on with my being that needs to shift?
Yeah.
And so often I hear, that kind of, that inner work, that energetic work, that alignment work being invalidated as not like real work. When really, in my mind, like if you don't have that piece squared away, all the other like work that you're doing is not, it's not going to work. You're not going to get the results that you want. And so often I think there was a conversation in IGC around this too, of like, this idea around showing up and like showing up online and like, okay, well, I'm not feeling great, but I need to like show up in this certain way. And it's like, well, actually, like maybe taking 3 hours to self-care is showing up. It's just not showing up in this like masculine paradigm of like doing, hustle all the time. Hustling is amazing when it's aligned, but oftentimes there's like alignment work that has to happen first. And I think we can be really hard on ourselves.
Yeah.
Because there are these phases of like very deep energetic, shifting and emotional shifting and healing and all this kind of stuff. And that is just as exhausting, as, the other work.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
No, I agree with you. I mean, I think both are required, like we just had that whole training, which people loved.
Hustle and glow.
Hustle and glow. And I do see the hustle as a little bit more of the masculine, and then the glow is a little bit more of the feminine. But I don't know. I get a little bit stuck on the words masculine and feminine because there's some words. I feel like this was like the conversation we were having when we were all at Sugarfish in LA.
Oh, yeah.
Heather, about like boundaries versus sovereignty. And, but some words are so like clearly defined by the individual that you almost can't use that word to explain a new concept, Yeah.
So that's why I like the word like alignment first. Like if you get yourself into alignment, like most people know what that feels like. If you're feeling really anxious, some people don't know, like I got into coaching because I was having panic attacks. So like I'm very familiar with like that feeling of anxiety, but now I can kind of check myself and say, okay, well, let me get myself back into alignment and then go act on the thing that I like need to be acting on. So,
but you having those panic attacks, Natalie, I would say also was like your body being like, get me out of this reality.
For sure.
And sometimes that's what happens. Sometimes people start like, a lot of times when people start having more of an awakening, their bodies start either like shutting down or just like doing really weird stuff.
Yeah.
So that
I
you'll
mean, the
start
way I
to
see it now is like, it really was just like, you are on the wrong path. Like, bloop, like, come over here. You're welcome. Yeah, but again, it's that emotional awareness of all this emotional work that I've done that like, oh wow, I can feel now when I'm out of alignment and I need to get myself back into alignment. And that is just as much work as, writing an
totally.
letter.
Well, and sometimes I think for me, what I'm realizing as I get to know myself more,
Yeah.
and I create more and more intimacy with my business and my work and my message, I realize that uh, sometimes it's not the right moment. Like it just hasn't come through yet, the thing, whatever the thing is, right? So I do a lot of work, creative work. I'm doing like all of our creative stuff right now. And a lot of content too. I would say Olivia and I, share in that a lot. She really does create the foundation, the structure of our programs. It wouldn't happen without her. But with the creative stuff, like sometimes, and I think Olivia feels this too, because everything we're doing is kind of an art, business, I think is how we choose to do art, a lot of us. And it's like, it doesn't always come at that moment, right? So it's like Jen Bradshaw was saying something about this to me a couple weeks ago. She said something like, when you're tired, you can rest, but you don't necessarily need to rest. Sometimes you need to change the pattern of what you're doing, right? So, and I've been practicing this. I've been practicing this for years actually, because I figured this out, but I didn't like have the words around it. So for me, the way it looks is like, if I'm trying to write, so let's say I need to create content because Olivia's like, my boss is like, we need 6 email newsletters for next week, right? Yeah. I'm like, okay. So there's a little bit of pressure. I have to go into that creative space, right? Yeah. And I want to just, as you say, make my mess my message. I want to just pull through whatever's happening. Mm-hmm. But for whatever reason, it's not happening. So I will go move. Mm-hmm. Like I'll go to Soul Cycle. I'll move my body. I'll move the energy that way. If I can't move the words through me, I'll move something I can move.
Yeah, I love that.
Or I'll make art in another way. So a lot of what I do, like I said, I consider my art. But if that like type of art isn't working or isn't coming through, I'll start to create. So I'll paint, or I'll like, make a vision board, or I'll even like redecorate the house. Like for some people, cleaning's very like,
Yeah, I'm a cleaner.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I love that. I'll like sit there if I'm feeling stuck. I'll just like sit there and be like, okay, Natalie, what are you gonna write about today? How are you feeling? What's going on? Like blah 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 blah.
Just
like
giving yourself prompts.
Yeah, and it just really like, because it's so hard again that like if you just sit down, you're like, this has to be perfect right now.
Totally.
Instead of just like, okay, how's it going? What was that
totally
the other day? Oh, it was this. That was a cool insight, and just like getting it flowing that way for sure.
Totally. I'm trying to pull up our comments and stuff. Are you?
Let me check. Hey guys, we love you.
Okay, so guys, what questions do you have for Natalie about your message, about getting your core message out into the world? She's launching a brand new program, which is actually going to be a bonus with our coach training, which we'll talk to you about at the end. And, we would love to work with you guys. We would love you to do Natalie's program. We'd love you to do coach training. We'd love you to do both. But whether or not you ever work with me, or you ever work with Natalie, or you ever work with IGC, or if you ever buy a pencil from either of us, we want you to get this message. We want you to get this information. And so, Natalie, let's just go through these points if it's okay with you. Can I just
for sure.
interview you and ask you these questions? So tell me and tell our audience, why do you believe that we need a clear message in order to build a personal brand or a coaching business?
I like wrote these questions, so it's so funny to Get me a
Don't pull my cover. I'm the
why do you need
interviewer.
a clear message? No, it's just like, oh wait, yeah. So
Mhm.
here's the thing, guys. This is what I tell all my clients. It doesn't matter if you're a coach, you're a healer, you're a yoga teacher, you're a social media manager. If you're offering something that's a service that is a little bit fluffy, and not fluffy, but like is a little bit intangible, right?
Yes.
It is so,
Good correction.
yeah. Again, it's my own like patterning, but is a little bit intangible. You really need to make it obvious to your potential client and to your audience what they're going to get through
Mhm.
the work with you. And that at the core of it, that's what your message is just like, okay, come do this work with me, and here is the result you can expect on the other
Interesting.
side.
Cool.
Because that helps people see like, okay, wow, I will never forget this. I was at some like conference in DC. I don't remember. It was some event, and a new coach was giving away like coaching sessions,
Mhm.
which is so cool. That's what we like, that's a very common thing to do, like free
Mhm.
coaching sessions. That's amazing. But she said it to this big group, and I was like, that is so funny because like these people may not know what coaches do, like what coaching is, like they don't know
Mhm.
why they would
Mhm.
want a coaching session. It was just, again, it was very intangible. So the
Mhm.
clearer you can get on your message and what you represent, the easier it'll be for your ideal potential client, your
Mhm.
audience, your tribe to connect with you and
Mhm.
ultimately want to join your program and work with you, because that's like we want to create results for our people, right?
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
so the clearer you can get on your message, the easier it's going to be in terms of attracting your tribe and signing clients and making the kind of money that you want to be making.
So
So
what's the connection between results and message? Because I hear what you're saying and I like what you're saying, but I want to like tweeze it out a little bit more for our audience.
yeah, so a result is the transformation, right?
Mhm.
So it's
Mhm.
like the thing that happened as a result of this work.
Okay.
So for me, for example, as an example, working with my very first coach resulted in me quitting my job. So
Okay.
if you were to own that as her message, it's like, okay, you come work with, if you are feeling like you want to quit your job, come work with me and I'll give you the support to make that happen. So for me, in
Interesting.
terms of this business, it's like, okay, and Wealthy Witch, it's like, okay, if you're feeling stuck and not clear on what your message is and more like, not more, and afraid to put it out there, let's work together. We'll help you get clear and confident enough to get visible.
Hmm.
Is that making sense of like, okay, it's like that
Yeah.
thing that you can expect
Yeah. I mean,
after experiencing this container.
what I think is cool, and I have a couple examples here too, but like what I'm seeing is like results show you your message. So the results that you create for yourself and for your clients will show you your message. And so what's really interesting to me about that, as you know, having a coach training program, is one of the biggest practices that we have people do, whether they've been coaching for years or they're brand new.
Yeah,
Is we partner them up. They have partner coach. They do partner coaching the entire 6 months. And
exactly.
and then we also recommend that you go out and get pro bono clients. And look, I don't think that, people will say, oh, well, I don't need to do that. Da, da, da. There are lawyers out there who every single year of their, of working take 10% of their business is pro bono.
Totally.
Why? Because they want to do it to give back, because they want to hone their craft, because they want to work with a different type of client. One of the things that I've done, and I still do this, I'll still give extra sessions to a woman who I want to try to help out a little bit more, or
Oh, yeah.
someone who's going through something like for example, one of our women who's in um, fall fall training right now, who's going to graduate in a couple weeks. When she came on board for coach training, I gave her some extra sessions with me. I did some pro bono work with her because she had experienced a lot around grief. And I was, 2 years through my process with losing my brother, and I wanted to see if I could really do grief coaching.
Yeah,
And
for
so I said to her, I said, look, this is a new territory for me. I have a lot of experience, but this is going deeper. if you're open to going deeper with me, like, let's try it together. And so I gave it to her as a gift, and I've done that multiple times. And I remember there was one point where I wanted to start working with men. And so I took on a couple of male pro bono clients because I wanted to get really comfortable.
Totally. And I think that's so important and kind of segues into the next question. But this idea of yourself as your first client and looking at like, okay, like what transformation have I made in my life?
Yeah.
What have I created?
Yeah.
How did I, like, something I teach a lot in with my clients is like, okay, how can we transmute this experience? Where were you at point A when you were like, shit, this is a problem in my life, to point D or F where you're like, oh wow, I'm not experiencing this anymore. And what was that process that you went through that you can now teach to your clients and do with your clients? And so, pro bono, I mean, again, my 100 sessions in 90 days, like I would never have put that together as a problem that I could solve until I did all of that pro bono work.
Interesting. It's
So
super interesting.
yeah. And so it was really that experience of both. Like, holy shit,
Mm-hmm.
I've had this experience, and now I have all these women telling me that they're experiencing the same thing. So, like, here's a problem that I can solve.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that you have the gifts to solve. And so, look, a lot of people have different stances on this. I believe, and I would say Olivia probably pretty much agrees with me because this is what we teach in IGC. And I would say that you would say something similar. I believe that, like, that the whole message in the coaching world is like, declare your major. Like when you go to college, you have to like declare your major, declare your niche. What is your niche? Like, how are you niching? Right.
Yeah.
And I believe that the more the ultimately faster and perhaps a little bit more evolved, not to sound like bossy about it or whatever, way to niche is actually to put yourself out there into the world and then see who bites, like see what people are brought to you. And that, I call it God. Some people call it the universe. You were calling it source, like, or Jen was calling it source earlier. Somebody was calling it source, whatever it is. It could be this fly, but like that energy, our higher self, will bring us the people that we're meant to work with. And through receiving that and saying, yes, you know what? Yes, I get this. I get the confidence message. I've been there and I'm still in it. I'm still working this whole thing out.
Yeah.
But this is what I'm here for. And I know that. And it only took me 86 calls to confirm it, right?
Totally.
But
so much free coaching. And but the other thing too that I will say in this confidence piece is that, like, doing that much coaching in such a concentrated period of time got me so super solid on my skills that I was like, I can coach anyone around anything, like, bring it.
Well, that's why it's so invaluable. Like, it's so important because, like, how do you operate from a place of confidence if you don't feel like you're legit?
Exactly. Yeah. So that, I mean, again, if you're watching this and you're kind of like, I don't know my message, go do pro bono. You don't have to do 100 though. Do like 10.
Yeah. And like track the common themes.
Yeah, for sure.
So let me ask you a question, Natalie. Talk to me about turning your mess into into your message. How do you teach this? How do you teach this to your clients?
I love this question. This is my favorite thing to do. So one of the paradigms that I use a lot in my work is this idea that you wouldn't be called to the work that you're doing if you didn't have something to share, right? If you didn't have a really powerful experience, if you didn't have a message and a story that was going to be healing or empowering or inspiring to someone else.
Okay.
So that's our baseline.
Okay.
The work then is in saying, okay, well, what has my messy experience been? What have I worked through for myself? What feels really edgy and vulnerable and scary to be sharing publicly?
Mm-hmm.
And how can I kind of do that inner work? How can I process it even more for myself, turn it into a really powerful story that will inspire, motivate, and uplift my ideal client? And ultimately serve in growing my tribe and, you know, building my business. So this can take a lot of inner work, because oftentimes when we start to do this, it's like, oh, wow, okay, well, I've had this experience, but I haven't really talked about it publicly yet.
Mm-hmm.
I'm worried about what people are going to think of me. I'm scared of being judged, all this kind of stuff. So there's some fear clearing that has to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And then really connecting it to, okay, like, how do you put yourself forward, put yourself out there as that leader of like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I've had this experience. I'm out the other side. If you are, it's like a river, right? I'm on this other side of the river. If you're still on this other bank, you know, let's have a conversation and see what we
Mm-hmm.
can do here. But
Yeah.
I think it's so, so powerful. One of my favorite things about the coaching, healing, service industry in general is that we get to transmute these messy experiences for ourselves and give them a purpose, right? Turn them into something really powerful, really inspiring for someone else.
Yeah.
So I think, you
So
know, I
it's a,
talked about, oh, I was just going to say, like, we referenced my anxiety attack, which the first one happened when I was 25. I was in consulting. It was like, felt like a huge big deal. And I had all this shame around it. And the first time I shared it in service of my business, it was at a workshop that I was doing around, I think, how to like eat to manage your anxiety.
mm-hmm.
Um, and this woman came up to me afterwards and she was like, oh my God, like, thank you. She was like, I've been feeling really anxious too, but I'm in this MBA program and like, no, it's so competitive and like, no one is talking about this. Like, she was like, you know, you're amazing. And I was like, what? Like, you know, and so just sharing your messy story,
Mm-hmm.
you don't even know who you're helping.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So it's about truth. It's about visibility. It's about vulnerability. It's about all of these things. Um,
You got a comment. Sarah says, gotten over the word expert and thrown everything away. I'm just going to be myself. I'm in no hurry for an end result because I don't believe in endings. Yeah, totally. That's an amazing point too. Of like, you know, we're always on this journey, Sarah. Thanks for that.
so the last thing here is, how do you turn your message into money and
Yeah.
solve a core problem in the world? To which I would say, like, join coach training and your specifically through your bonus. But maybe you can give our audience a general answer, and then we can talk about this specific offering.
Yeah. So this one actually took me a little bit longer to connect the dots around
Mm-hmm.
because we talk a lot about, there's a lot of like noise online around like follow your passion, la la la, whatever. And that's really amazing.
Yeah.
But ultimately, you also have to be solving a problem that other people resonate with and are going to pay you for, like, to solve.
Right.
So connecting that, like, you know, into your message into what you do for them and the value that you add, that is oftentimes the missing piece, where it's like, okay, yes, I have this experience. I know I want to help people, but also
Mm-hmm.
I need to speak to them in a way that they can understand and create that value. Um, and so that really is like where coach training comes. That's where your modality really comes in handy, and being really confident in your skills of like getting trained as a coach, doing your ICF hours,
Mm-hmm.
becoming a yoga teacher, um, all those kinds of things. So just really making sure that you're connecting those dots for your people. You're not just like, you know, floofing
Yeah.
around.
And I will say, I think Kelly Curtis and I have been talking about this lately because she's one of our spring trainers, and she's very, very spiritual. And some people would say she's very, very out there. To me, like, I get all of it, but at the same time, I'm like, okay, all right. So, this is like, it was funny. Olivia and I, we were talking about different archangels, and I was like, we're on a run in LA, and I'm like, have you heard of Archangel? I think it was Raziel. I pronounce all their names wrong anyways. She goes, Olivia goes, oh yeah, he showed up in one of my meetings with Kelly. Like,
Oh,
as if he just like walked in the
just
room,
like chilling. Yeah.
So, but this is for us, this is what's normal, and it's fun and it's cool, and you do get to play inside of this kind of magical sphere where unexpected things happen, and you know the meaning of things, and you understand when you're getting signs. That being said, I think that one of the challenges and part of healing the witch wound on a more collective level is us witches doing the work to be legit. So you want to be a legit witch, right?
Legit witch. Ooh, I love that.
Because there's, the coaching industry in particular, and I would also include with this, like the healing industry. Like, you meet people all the time who are like, I'm a healer. And I'm like, okay, bro, I know like 5,000 healers. Like, what are you?
Right, exactly.
Right?
Like, what do you actually, like, what are we actually talking about here?
Yeah, because I mean, there's like stories of, the FTC is just now cracking down on this whole online coaching scam where they were promising these results in 90 days and da-da-da-da. And it's like, I forget, I took screenshots of it last night, but it's like a multi-million-dollar lawsuit. And
yeah. Well, even all these disclaimers now on these emails where it's like, I help this person make like $1 bajillion, and then the bottom of the email, it's like results not typical. Like, well, I'm like, okay.
FTC sends checks to people who paid for business coaching services. The FTC is mailing 7,583 checks totaling more than 2.2 million to people who lost money in a business coaching scheme. So like, this is the shit that's happening, right? Which it's so unfortunate on multiple ends, and who knows like whose side and da all the things. But to me, I see stuff like this and I get excited because I'm like, we have a legitimate business that's ICF accredited. We are not over-promising. If anything, we're over-delivering. Our clients say that all the time.
Right.
And we do manage expectations. We're not trying to like skyrocket our growth to the point where like we don't know what's happening. Like, we've got an eye on everything. And I agree. I agree that we as coaches and healers and teachers need to continually legitimize ourselves.
100%.
Like, why would you, as a personal trainer or a massage therapist, be required to do more training than a coach?
Right. Exactly.
Olivia and I were talking about this on our live today on our show. We were like, she's like, well, we touch people's, I said, with spray tanning, you didn't need that kind of constant certification because you weren't actually touching somebody's skin.
Right.
If you're a massage therapist or you're an esthetician, like do facials and stuff, you have to be constantly renewing your certification.
Totally.
Like, well, we touch people's souls. Shouldn't it be the same? And I'm like, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. We've got Jamie Miller saying snake oil salesman, like funny emojis. Give me all the training. Woohoo. Long credentials.
For those of you ladies who are in our training programs or have done our training programs or another ICF accredited coach training program or a really like solid training, good. Utilize it. Work on your confidence, work on your voice, work on your visibility. For those of you who feel like this might be a gap for you, we actually have an opportunity.
Amazing. Yes, we do. So if you sign up for coach training and become a legit witch through me.
I love that.
I'm going to use that next time. Through me, there's a really unique opportunity to work with me this coming spring, and it's actually perfect timing because the dates match up really well. Cool. So it's my signature messaging course, Your Magical Message, which is actually the new and improved version of a course that I taught this last fall. That was called Living Magic, but anyway, the name's
got it.
The journey that we go on is helping you do a lot of what Katie and I have been talking about, like in this live, is getting really clear on what your message is, turning your mess into your message, getting really clear on your story, doing that inner work to process and heal it, and then develop the confidence to actually get visible, put it out there, and ultimately build your tribe, grow your email list. Develop your offerings. That's a new added module so that you can actually build your business off your message.
Amazing.
So I'm really excited about it. It's really clear. The women from last fall have been been crushing it. So it's really exciting, and we don't start until May. So if you start coach training in March, you have 2 months of coach training, and then we can dive into doing this messaging work.
Perfect. And so what's actually, guys, Natalie is a leader in our community and has been for 3 years now. We work very closely together. She does make a commission when people sign up through her. So what that allows her to do is give a really, really generous bonus. So normally this class would actually cost how much, Natalie?
$2,000.
Okay. So it's Your Magical Message is a $2,000 course that you get for free when you join coach training through Natalie. So if you're interested in this, the best next step, let's talk about next steps. So number one, if you want to talk to Natalie about coach training, she knows all the ins and outs of our program. She's been in our company for 3 years now. She knows everything. You can totally talk to her, okay? If you have questions specifically about your magical message, you need to talk with Natalie directly. What's the best way for them to contact you?
If you actually just private message me on Facebook. If you're watching this on Facebook, I'm really responsive to my DMs, so just message me there, or my email, but don't do that. Actually, just find it.
Thoughts on emails. Just kidding. Okay. So, and then if you want to talk about coach training and for whatever reason, you've talked to Natalie already and you want to talk to me or Olivia Chapman, my partner and our colleague, then you actually want to book a call through Natalie's link. So you're going to post your actual link in the comments, right?
I am. Yes. I'm doing that right now.
Okay, cool. So guys,
in the webinar chat, let me find this on my profile.
Okay, yeah. I don't even think we really have webinar people.
Okay. I will post it on Facebook. Hey guys. So go ahead and do that and talk to Katie and Olivia if you want to get your magical message. If you're sold on that and you have questions about coach training, be sure to connect with them. And obviously there's so much value.
Yeah, so in terms of logistics, guys, coach training, Natalie's bonus expires and the last day for enrollment is Monday. Technically, you can sign up through 11:59 p.m. Eastern on Monday. You just need to mention Natalie to get her bonus, and then we'll hook everything up if you guys haven't talked already. But the best thing to do, because Monday's right around the corner, the best thing to do is to book a call with me or Olivia. You want to book one of those 30-minute consultation spots, and we can talk. And then, of course, if you want to talk with Natalie directly, do that as well.
Yeah. The link is now on the video. So for those of you guys who've been waiting for it, I just posted it. That will allow you to book with Katie and Olivia. So go do that, and then also come talk to me because I'm really friendly and hilarious. So
yeah. And guys, I can't say it enough. I completely agree with Natalie that getting to the core of your message is so important. It's a process that you're going to go through in the beginning of your business, and it's a process you're going to continue to go through and grow through as you become more and more you in your business. So I cannot urge you enough to check out her bonus. She also, just hands down, she's an amazing coach. She's an amazing healer. She's an amazing woman. Her ability to be with people and hold space is above and beyond. So I feel really, really great putting you in Natalie's hands. And I know that she wouldn't be here if she didn't feel the same. So we love you guys. Thank you so much. And regardless, we hope that you got the value of this training and of putting yourself out there and of finding that core inner confidence that's going to make a difference for you.
Magic.
All right. Love you, Natalie. Love you guys. Thank you guys so much for joining us.
Bye.
Talk to you soon. Bye.